Guragraganya gana gocha goloruharam Gauranga Gudatama Gopyada Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Emona Gauranga Hridoya Dadiya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gauranga Namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoyamada Pranare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Yasyaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya, Prema-bhakti-candrika Parama Pumata, Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidvaha Rishe Yustat Priya Janahan Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunath Aptam Brajabala Bapahimam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Krishna Khan, hit your keyboard. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Krishna Nama Amrita Barshi Vaktra Chandra Prabhadvasta Tamo Baraya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Namo Namah Srila Narottamaya. Again and again I offer my obeisances unto Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is indeed a true follower of Lord Gauranga Dev. The nectarian shower of the holy name radiating from the moon of his mouth destroys the darkness of ignorance. So, in our previous session, we've been speaking from Narottam Das Thakur's Prema-bhakti-candrika. There's a number of different versions. Pretty much the verses are the same, although there's some difference sometimes in the words and things, a few words here and there. But some editions break it up into different divisions. And this is the 6th division called Parakya, Braja Parakya Tattva, the truth about Parakya Bhav and Braj. And this is the 19th, 20th verse in that section, which is the last verse in that section. Our next chapter, which I'm going to have to think about what's happening next week. I think we should be okay. Yeah, should be okay on the 18th. Rath Yatra is coming up. We've got a lot of devotees coming. So it'll be the 7th section, which is called Akantika Bhakti Riti, or the characteristics of an unalloyed devotee. Very beautiful section. I'm really looking forward to it. So let's look at our verse from last week. So I always start by looking back because that's what Fakir Mundu taught me. Hema Gori Tanu Roy Anki Dadasani chai rodana koriba abhilāṣe jaladada dada dada ange ati manohara rupe gune bhubana prakashe. I will desire to see the golden complexion Radha with my own eyes. I'll cry to see the enchanting form and qualities of Krishna, whose complexion is like the new clouds. So in some editions, that's verse 77, or verse 78 is another edition too like that. And this verse today is verse 78, or text number 20 in the 6th section. So let's go ahead with this verse today. Sakhī-gaṇa cāri-pāśe sevā-kore abhilāṣe parama sevā-sūkha dhare bhaṇe mora rase hañā bhora Narottama sadā-i bihare. Sakhī-gaṇa cāri-pāśe. So he's saying that he wants to see the sakhīs on all four sides, sevā-kore abhilāṣe, who are very desirous of serving Krishna. Abhilāṣe means they have this desire. And another meaning is that I want to render service to those gopis. Parama sevā-sūkha dhare. That is a supreme happiness to render service to them, or the service that they're rendering to Radha and Krishna. That's the parama sukha, the sevā-sūkha dhare, that dhare means to carry or to do, that they're doing. That's the topmost happiness. Bhaṇe mora rase hañā Narottama sadā-i bihare. So he says that this desire is there in my mind, and I'm always absorbed in this desire. I'm always having this conception. I'm always thinking about this. So this is an important thing. I want to focus a little bit on this rasa hañā, that this mellows that he's absorbed in, that mora, he's something in his mind. So this could indicate a conception, or it could indicate something which is a realized platform. And both are very, very important. So this mood of the gopis, this service of the gopis, this is the topmost understanding in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And Narottam Das Thakur is saying, this is all that I want to be absorbed in always. So Srila Prabhupada in Krishna book, he speaks about the kirtan of the gopis. Let's go ahead and read this. It's very beautiful. All the gopis then went further and further into the forest, searching out Krishna. But when they learned that actually Radharani was left alone by Krishna, they became very sorry. This is a test of Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, they were a little envious that Krishna had taken Radharani alone, leaving aside all the other gopis. But as soon as they knew that Krishna had also left Radharani and that she was alone, lamenting for him, they became more sympathetic to her. The gopis found Radharani and heard everything from her about how she misbehaved with Krishna and how she was proud and was insulted for her pride. After hearing this, they became very sympathetic. Then all the gopis, including Radharani, began to proceed further into the forest until they could no longer see the moonlight. When they saw that it was gradually getting darker, they stopped. Their mind and intelligence became absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. They all imitated the activities of Krishna and his speeches. Due to their heart and soul being completely given to Krishna, they began to chant his glories, completely forgetting their family interests. In this way, all the gopis assembled together in the bank of the Jamuna, and expecting that Krishna must return to them, they simply engaged in the chanting of the glories of Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Sons of Bhaktivedanta Purport, the 30th chapter of Krishna. Krishna's hiding from the gopis. So this is our sampradaya. We want to join in that kirtan of the gopis. And as we spoke in so many previous sessions, this chanting of Hare Krishna is the mood of the gopis. It's meditating on the gopis. It's trying to bring Radha and Krishna together. This kirtan of the gopis purifies all the three worlds. A great authority, Uddhava, after seeing the gopis at the very end of the 47th chapter, the Brahma Gita, in the 10th canto, he speaks very authoritatively in a very beautiful, famous verse, Vande Nanda Brajastrinam Padarenam Abhikshana Saha Yasam Harikatod Gitam Punati Bhuvanatrayam. He says that I'm offering my vandana, my prayers, unto the Striya, the ladies of Nanda Maharaj's village. And not only am I offering respects to them, but I'm offering respects to the dust from their feet, Padarenim Abhikshana Saha. And he says that, what are these, why am you offering respects to those gopis? Yasham Harikatod Gitam Punati Bhuvana Trayam. Because the kirtan of these gopis, the udgitam, it's not udgita or udguna, means something, means an eruption, or means a kind of vomiting, means something which is deeply coming out of their hearts. Yasham Harikato Udgitam, this Harikata, this Harikirtan of the gopis, punati bhuvana trayam. It purifies all the three worlds. So this is our sampradaya. The gopis are chanting like this, to please Radha and Krishna, to please Radharani, or to please Radha-Krishna. And we're similarly engaging in the same kirtan for the pleasure of Radha-Krishna. So my Guru Maharaj, I want to take you a little bit to the embankment of separation. And he speaks something about the mood of the gopis and Radha-Krishna. And Guru Maharaj, he says that in the meantime, Purnamasi had ordered Brinda Devi to engage all the manjaris in decorating the kunj where Radha and Krishna will sit and swing. So they've decorated the kunj and swing for Radha and Krishna. This is the Manjari Bhav Seva. Our mood is this Manjari Bhav, and we just offer service to Radha and Krishna in that mood. So then he sings a song, Sakhi Brinda Vigyapti by Narottam Das Thakur. Vigyapti means a prayer or Petition to the Sakhi Brinda. The Brinda means the Sangha, the associates, to those gopis who are servants of Radha and Krishna. And such a beautiful prayer. I don't know if I can, just give me a couple of minutes here. I'm going to try to set up this key. This is a song which is very popular in Gadagiri and very popular with my Guru Maharaj, the song that he grew up with. It's a song which is really very dear to all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Radha-Krishna Jugala Kishora Jivane Gati. He says that this song, first of all, this is a song in the mood of the servants of the gopis, which is what we're hearing about today from Narottam Das Thakur. He's saying that this Yugal Kishore, this divine couple, Radha and Krishna, they're my prana more. They're my life and soul. Jivane marani gati aranahi more. And if someone wants to come and try to preach something higher to me, or something different to me about Sita Ram, or maybe about the Brahman effulgence, or this or that, Narottam Das Thakur, he says, Jivane marani gati aranahi more. I have no other gati, no other goal, purpose in my life. In my life or in my death, Jivane Marani Gati Arnahi more. Then indirectly the verse is speaking about bringing Radha and Krishna together, which is the primary service of the Gopis and of the Manjaris. So this service to Radha and Krishna requires some location. And that's what he next speaks about. Kalindira Kule, on the bank of the Jamuna. And underneath the Keli Kadamba tree in that forest, on the bank of the Jamuna. This is also referring to the Rasastali, which is a wonderful Keli Kadamba tree there. Ratana Ubera Upara Bosaba Dujan. And there, underneath that Keli Kadamba tree, there's a Ratna Bedi. There's a throne made out of jewels. And Bosaba Dujan, I'm going to offer this throne. He's saying not to Srimati Radharani, not to Krishna, but Dujana. I'm going to offer it to them together. This is a service of the sakhīs and the manjaris. They want to bring Radha and Krishna together. Chandani Raga. Ange Devo Chandane Raga Shamada Dulabo Kabe Yadu Kacha. He's saying that I'm going to offer some different services to them. And Shama Gori Ange Debo, this Shama and Gori, there's two of them, the dark one and the golden one, to their body. Debo means to offer Chandanera Ganda. I'm going to offer some cooling sandalwood paste, some chandan, which is very Ganda, very fragrant. Chamara Dulabo Kabi, and I'm going to stand there and I'm going to fan them. And Kabe Heri Mukha Chandra. Then I'm going to just look at their lotus faces, because that's a service. So many people, they're not interested in seeing the Lord. They're interested in getting some liberation. They're interested in making some spiritual advancement for themselves. But they're not actually interested in seeing the Lord. And so here, Narottam Das Thakur is saying, at my desire, I want to see Radha and Krishna together. Their moon-like faces. The forest of Vrindavan is so very, very important. So we're hearing about the Keli Kadamba trees on the bank of the Jamuna. We're hearing about the sandalwood trees who are giving such nice, wonderful sandalwood paste and also beautiful flowers. I used to pick sandalwood flowers in Florida. They don't have sandalwood trees. A few here in Narissa, but not so many. And now he's speaking something more. That Gatiya Malatir Mala, I want to make a garland, and this garland is going to be out of mully flowers. As we were citing the other day, Krishna, Maleti Pushpe Nagare Sudili. There's a saying in Hindi that of all the flowers, the mully is the best. And of all the cities, Delhi is the best. I don't know about that, as we were saying, but those malati flowers are very, very fragrant. And Dibodo Hargale, I'm going to put this around both of them. I'm going to give one garland and I'm going to put it around the two of them, bringing them together. And then Adare Tulia Dibo Karpura Tambule, then I'm going to offer some karpur and tambul. Tambul is another beautiful tree, very popular tree to grow in Orissa because people make some money from it. People make a tambul betel from it, betel nuts. Karpur means camphor. So I'm going to offer this tambul to them, scented with some karpur to their lotus mouths. Lalita-vi-shaka adi jata-saki brinda agya kariba sevā-sūkha. But Narottama's not thinking just that I'm just going to rush in and do this thing myself, just like that famous princess in Rajasthan. What's her name? Krishna Kund? You're not here. Who wrote so many different songs. Her name's slipping my mind. Sorry, who?
Mirabai.
Mirabai. Thank you, Krishna Kund. Just like Mirabai. But Mirabai, we're not happy with Mirabai. Bhaktivinoda Thakur spoke some about her, and many of our acharyas have. She's a Vaishnavi. She's wonderful. She's singing beautiful songs of Radha-Krishna, but she just wants to go right to Radha-Krishna. She's not taking shelter of any of the associates of Radha-Krishna. And Krishna says in the Adi Purana to Arjuna, Yeme bhakta jana partaname bhakta sate janahama bhaktanam chaye bhakta steme bhakta tamomata. Someone who says they're my devotee, they're not really my devotee. But the devotee of my devotee is my real devotee. Right? So Narottam Das Thakur is saying, and I'm going to do this, and someone may say, oh, you're such a big person. You're going to put some chandan paste on their heads. You're going to put them in an asana, vyasasana together. You're going to fan them. You're going to make a garland and put it around their necks and offer some tambul to them. And he says, no, lalita vishaka adi jata sakhī brinda. I'm going to do this with the agya. Agya is a very common word in Orissa. If someone tells their servant something, you say, agya, agya. It's kind of like in the West, we say, yes, sir. Agya means literally by your order. On your order, I'm going to do this thing. Agya koribo seva charanarabinda. I'll serve Radha and Krishna only by the permission, the agya of Lalita and Vishaka and the other gopis. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dasaranu Dasa. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dasaranu Dasa. Sevā-abhilāṣe kare, sevā-abhilāṣe kare, sevā-abhilāṣe kare, sevā-abhilāṣe kare, Narottama. He's saying that this personality, myself, that I'm the Das Anudas, the servant of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, has this sevā-abhilāṣe, this desire to do this service. And he puts his own name there. Now you may think, oh, that's a little proud to just put your own name there, but it's such a nice name. And his name has a beautiful purport. He's not just saying that he's not saying me, but he's saying this person who's Narottam Das, who's the servant of those Narottam, those great personalities. He's praying for this thing. So this is the desire of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Then Gurmaj in Embankment of Separation, he goes on to sing this song. I don't know if I'm going to try to sing this or not here. Roy Kanu Dui Bhashila Julana Ratna Mane Pari Jugala Charani Sona Nupara Runa Juna Bhaje, Shama Hasti Sona Rabala. He speaks this beautiful song, how Radha and Krishna are sitting on a swing while the gopis are swinging them, and how they're decorated, their feet are decorated with these ankle bells, which are making this beautiful sound, Runa Juna. And on the hand of Krishna Shamsundar, there's a golden bangle, and there's a golden armlet on Srimati Radharani. And Krishna's wearing a garland of forest flowers around his neck. And Radharani's neck is decorated with a necklace of pearls. Krishna's holding a flute to his lips, and his flute is calling out, Radhe, Radhe, Esho, Radhe, Radharani, come. And Mother Yashoda, she's bound Krishna's curly hair very nicely. Radharani's hair is in a braid. And all the time, the other gopis are coming, and the ankle bells on their feet are making such a nice song. They're all dancing and singing the glories of Radha and Krishna. Some are bringing water, some engage in swinging the swing, others engage in fanning with the chamra. Some are playing mridanga, some kartal, some are clapping their hands. And Lalita is offering Panchapradeep Artik. When by the mercy of my Guru will I serve Radha and Krishna in the mood of a manjari. Guru Kripa Labi Manjari Bhavi. Say Lila Lahari Heri Bo Bhakyahi. When say Lila Lahari Heri Bo Bhakyahi. By the mercy of Gurudev, when will I get that Manjari Bhav Seva, and I'll be able to directly see this wonderful pastime of Radha and Krishna. So this is the goal of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And we should know something about it. We should have some conception of it. Sometimes in the past, some of the things I'm going to speak today, I've spoken on before. I just feel this is such an extremely important subject. In the 8th chapter of the Madhya Lila, it's called the Ramananda Samvad. It's a conversation between Srila Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's speaking to Mahaprabhu different conceptions, and he's going gradually higher and higher and higher. And then in the 201st verse, he begins to speak something about how one can understand the pastimes of Radha Krishna. Let's go ahead and put this on the board. Radha-Krishna Lila Ati Guratan Dasya Vatsalyadi Bhavi Guchan. He's saying, first of all, we've been speaking, he says, about different rases, different mellows in connection and servitude with Krishna. And he's saying that Radha-Krishna Lila is Gudatara. It's very, very confidential. And Daksha Vatsalyadi Bhavi, in Dasya Ras and Vatsalya Ras, etc. Bhavi Nahoy Gochar. They can't really appreciate, they can't really understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But it's only the Gopis who can do that. And it's only by the mercy of the Gopis that those pastimes become bistar, or expanded. Sakhī-gaṇa ihan adhikar. Sakhī hoite hoye lilada bistar. Sakhī-gaṇa ihan adhikar. Only the Gopis actually have the adhikar to worship Radha and Krishna. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada generally gave worship of Gaur-Nitai or Jagannath to devotees. And he said that Radha Krishna worship, I think at one point he said something like it should be at least 15 Brahmins or something to do Radha Krishna worship properly, because that's a very, very high thing. Because only the Gopis have the adhikar to worship Radha and Krishna. Sakhī hoite hoy e lila bistar. And it's they can appreciate, they have the adhikar to understand these pastimes. And their mood is B-star. It's expanding these pastimes. And for the followers of the gopis, this is exactly what we're doing also in Harinam. That we're going out and doing kirtan, hopefully in the mood of the gopis, trying to conceptualize it anyway, trying to understand something about it. And we go out and we do Bishtar, and it's called Padayatra, that's called Harinam. And the devotees go out and they share this in the streets. But not only is it Bishtar, but it's also Pushta. Sakhī-gaṇa lila pushta nahi hoy. Sakhī lila bishtariya sakhī asvado. Now, in this verse, there's three principles mentioned: Pushta, Bishtariya, and Ashvadoy. And how the gopis, Sakhī-gaṇa lila pushta nahi hoy, without the gopis being present, these pastimes are not nourished. In other words, they can't go on, that they'll become starved. But the gopis, they nourish these pastimes. Sakhī Lila Bishtariya. This is Sakhī Lila. Sakhī Lila means that, when Prabhupada says, only by their cooperation are such pastimes broadcast. It is their business, and Prabhupada says, to taste the mellows. Sakhī Asvadoy. This is their constitutional position to do these three things. This is what a gopi is, someone who's doing pushta, vishtara, and ashvadoy, who's nourishing the pastimes, who's bishtar, expanding the pastimes by engaging other people, by bringing other people to serve Radha and Krishna. Radha-Krishna pranamor yugala kishore, jivane marani gati nahi armor. Sakhī ashvadoy. To be able to do that, their strength in doing that is that they're the ashvadoy. They're relishing this mellow. So this is a very, very important principle. Krishna is God, and he's all-pervading, but he can't find nourishment. He can't nourish his own pastimes without the Chit Shakti. So although Radha and Krishna's love is all-pervading in the universe, it can't be nourished. Sakhī-gaṇa lila pushanahi hoy. It can't be nourished without the aids of their girlfriends. Those sakhīs and manjaris are just like branches and flowers of the vine of love for Krishna. And that vine is personified by Srimati Radharani. And so just as a creeper, and in front of our house, we have a beautiful Jai creeper on our Gangasuri tree, and they're good friends, and they're going around, the creeper's going around the tree, and it goes up so high because of the tree. And the two become very, very beautiful together. And so similarly, the gopis, there's a tamal tree, Shyam Sundar Krishna, which is bound up by the golden Goparadharani vine. And the sakhīs and manjaris, they're parts of that vine, as Srimati Radharani. Now, Ramananda Roy goes on to tell Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the importance of these gopis and manjaris. Sakhī-gaṇa lila anyera nahi gati, sakhī-bhave tanre kore anugati, Radha-Krishna kunja seva sadya pai, sehi sadya paite ar nahi pai. Sakhī-gaṇa, without the gopis, lila anyera nahi gati. You can't enter into these pastimes. We can't render service to Radha and Krishna without the gopis. Sakhī-bhave tanre kore anugati. So we want to be anugatya. We want to be following in the mood, the sakhī-bhave, the mood of those gopis. Radha-Krishna kunja seva sadya pai. And then it's only by their mercy that we can render service to Radha-Krishna in the kunjas of Vrindavan, kunja seva, say sadya paite ar nahika upai. There's no other way that one can understand this. Now let's look at Srila Prabhupada's purport to this verse. This is a beautiful, beautiful, very rustic purport. Prabhupada says the means for returning home, for going back to Godhead, is devotional service. But everyone has a different taste in the Lord's service. One may be inclined to serve the Lord in servitude, dasya ras, fraternity, sakhya rasa, parental love, vatsalya ras. But none of these can enable one to enter into the service of the Lord in conjugal love. None of those moods, none of those particular rasas can enable one to enter into the kunjas of Vrindavan with the gopis. To attain such service, one has to follow in the footsteps of the gopis in the ecstasy of Sakhī bhav. Then only can one understand the transcendental mellow of conjugal love. And then Prabhupada quotes Ujjwala Mani of Rupa Goswami, and he defines what is a gopi in a beautiful verse. Prema-lila viharanam samyak vistarika sakhī Vishrambaratna peti cha. This is what a gopi is. Prema lila biharanam. These pastimes of prema, biharanam, the enjoyment of these pastimes. It's the gopis who are samyak, bistarika, who are expanding completely these pastimes, who are manifesting these pastimes. And this is the definition of a Sakhī gopi, someone who's so intimate that we say Vishrambena Guru Seva. They're doing seva in the same way that they're so intimate, they've become one. Ratnapiti. One who expands the conjugal love, Prabhupada translates, of Krishna and his enjoyment among the gopis is called a Sakhī. Such a person is a confidential gopi in the conjugal affairs. Such assistants are like jewels in the form of Krishna's confidants. So then Prabhupada goes on, he speaks about what is the actual business of the gopis. And again, he quotes Ujjwala Mani, Sakhī Prakarana, Mitta prema gunot kirtas tayor asakti karita, avisaro dvayor eva sakya Krishna samarpanam. Nam asvasana nepatyam hridayodghata patavam chidra sambritya etasya patyede parivanchana siksha sangamanam kale sevanam vyajanadi bi tayor dvayor upalamba sandesha presanam tata naika prana samraksha prayatnadya Sakhī kriyaha. So this is a Sakhī kriya. This is the work of the gopis. Srila Prabhupada is quoting this Ujjwala Mani. This also gives us a little subtle indication that if we want to understand these subject matters, this is a book that we should look in. Sakhī Prakarana means the different types of Sakhīs. And it's one of the chapters in the Ujjwala Mani. So let's read Prabhupada's translation. In the conjugal pastimes of Krishna, Krishna is the hero, Nayaka, and Radhika is the heroine, Nayika. The first business of the gopis is to chant the glories of both the hero and the heroine. That's the first business of the gopis. Their second business is to gradually create a situation in which the hero may be attracted to the heroine and vice versa. Their third business is to induce each of them to approach the other. Their fourth business is to surrender under Krishna. The fifth is to create a jovial atmosphere. The sixth, to give them assurance to enjoy their pastimes. The seventh, to dress and decorate both the hero and heroine. The eighth is to show expertise in expressing their desires. The ninth, to conceal the faults of the heroine. The 10th, to cheat their respective husbands and relatives. The 11th is to educate. The 12th, to enable the hero and heroine to meet at the proper time. The 13th, to fan the hero and heroine. The 14th, to sometimes reproach the hero and heroine. The 15th, to set conversations in motion. And the 16th, to protect the heroine by various means. So I'm going to jump down a little bit in Prabhupada's purport here. And this is the last couple sentences in his purport, which I found very significant. Prabhupada writes, one has to practice living in Vrindavan by hearing about the talks of the gopis with Krishna. However, one should not consider himself a gopi, for this is offensive. We don't just consider ourselves any more than we would consider ourselves to be Srila Prabhupada. We would consider ourselves to be some acharya guru. This is offensive. It's artificial. But we practice by hearing. And this word practice is important in Srila Prabhupada. We should practice, we should develop some conception. So then Ramananda Roy, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, to the mouth of Ramananda Roy, quotes a verse which Srila Prabhupada explains is from the Govinda Lilamrita. Vibhur api sukha rupa sapakashopi bhavaha kshanam api nahiya Radha-Krishna yoya rite swaha pravahati rasa pushtim chidvibhutir iveshaha srayati na padam asamnak sakinam rasagyaha. He says that the pastimes of Radha and Krishna are swapakash. They're self-manifested. In other words, they don't need anything on their own. They don't require our glorification because they're unlimited. They're all powerful. Even so, Prabhupada says, the spiritual humors of such pastimes are never complete without the gopis, the Lord's personal friends. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is never complete without his spiritual potencies. And this is why we have a problem with Mirabai, because Krishna is not complete without the gopis. Who are we taking shelter of? Therefore, unless one takes shelter of the gopis, one cannot enter into the company of Radha and Krishna, who can be interested in their spiritual pastimes without taking their shelter. So this is not an optional point. It's a must. And then Ramananda Roy goes on in the same section of Madhya Lila chapter 8, speaking about then what is the mood of the gopis and what is their, because we heard in a previous session how we have to understand the chitta, or the inner mood, the inner consciousness of a devotee. So what is the chitta of the gopis? And Kaviraj Goswami, through the mouth of Ramananda Roy, describes. Sakira Swabhava Eka Akachakatam Krishna Saha Nija Lila Nahi Sakir. Sakir Swabhava Eka. There's one Eka, Sakir Swabhava. There's one particular inclination of the gopis. In particular, this is very, very important to the gopis. That the gopis never, Krishna Saha Nija Lila and Nahi Sakirman, they never have any desire to enjoy with Krishna personally. And then it goes on to explain about that. Someone may think, well, if you're not enjoying with Krishna, then how are you enjoying? How can the gopis get any pleasure? Krishna Saha Radhikara Lila Jai Korai. Nija Sukha Hoite Tate Koti Sukha Pa. That Nija Sukha Hoite Tate Koti Sukha Pai. They get 10 million times more happiness when they bring Radha and Krishna together. And this is a point of the verse today that Narottam Das Thakur is speaking to us, because those gopis, by nature, they're actually a part of Srimati Radharani. Ramananda Roy goes on to describe Radhara Swarup, Krishna Prema Kopalata, sakhī-gaṇa hoy tar palava pushpa pata. That by her nature, Srimati Radharani, she's a creeper of love of God. And the gopis, they're different twigs, palava pushpa pata, they're different twigs and flowers and leaves of that creeper. So if we want to approach that creeper, we have to approach those leaves and fruits and flowers. So then going on to the next verse. Krishna Lila Rita Jari Latake Sinchai Nija Sukha Hoite Pala Vadya Rakoti Sukha. When Krishna's pastimes, Krishna Lilamrita, Jari means if those pastimes, Latake Sinchoi, if they're sprinkled on that lata, that creeper, then Sukha Hoite Palava Adya, then those twigs, flowers, and leaves of the Gopis, Manjaris, they get 10 million times more happiness from the thing. Prabhupada in his commentary. In his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur states Srimati Radharani is a creeper of love of Godhead, and the Gopis are exactly like twigs, flowers, and leaves. When water is sprinkled on the creeper, the twigs, flowers, and leaves indirectly receive all the benefits of the creeper itself. But water sprinkled directly on the twigs, leaves, and flowers is not as effective as water sprinkled on the creeper's root. The Gopis are not as pleased when they directly mix with Krishna as when they serve to unite Srimati Radharani with Krishna. Their transcendental pleasure lies in uniting them. So this is Radha-Krishna Pranamor Yugala Kishore. And this is the nature of Gopi Bhav, that they want to bring Srimati Radharani and Krishna together. And then conversely, Ramananda Roy goes on to speak a few verses later. What is the mood of Srimati Radharani? Yajyapi sakhī-gaṇa Krishna sangame nahi katapi radhika yatne koranam sangam. So he says, although these gopis, nahiman, they don't have any mental desire for Krishna Sangama, to be with Krishna, Tatapi, still, nevertheless, Radhika, she desires to bring them together with the gopis, to bring those gopis together with Krishna. And so then Srimati Radharani, she sends the gopis to Krishna for different purposes. You go, you bring some service to Krishna, you bring some sweets to him, you do this so that you bring a message to him. And then Krishna grabs that gopi, understanding that Srimati Radharani wants that gopi to be assaulted in a beautiful, loving way by Krishna. And Radharani, then she gets 10 million times more happiness than if she were directly in contact with Krishna herself personally. And then Kaviraj Goswami explains that this is the nature of Krishna Prem. The gopis, they're wanting to bring Radha and Krishna together. They're not interested in their own pleasure. But Srimati Radharani is wanting to bring the gopis to Krishna. She gets more pleasure from that. So what is our conclusion to all of this? Also from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I'm thinking Vishwanath because he's written a commentary on Narottama's Prema-bhakti-candrika. Nikunja yuno ratikeli siddhya yali bir yuktira pekshaniya. That we're meditating on Gurudev, who's a peksha, who's doing very, very nice services. He's daksha. He's very, very expert in bringing Radha and Krishna together and arranging different pastimes in the kunj. Tatrati daksharati valabhasha. Therefore, he's valabhasha. He's very, very dear to Radha and Krishna. Vande Guru Sri Charanarabindam. I offer my pranams to Gurudev. Now, as we've often commented, I think it's such a beautiful and important point. When Srila Prabhupada was in Hawaii, Rameshwar Prabhu asked Prabhupada the meaning of this verse, and Prabhupada explained that this verse means book distribution. It means going out and preaching. It may mean directly that Gurudev is a sakhī manjari in a very, very high way, but also it means this activity that we're engaging different personalities in the service of Radha and Krishna. I'd like to finish up more and start finishing up. I have a few things I want to go on with a story from a wonderful book by called Karnananda, which describes about the pastimes of Ramachandra Kaviraj Goswami and Srinivas Narottama and Shamananda Prabhu's. and this is in the 3rd chapter there. And one day, Srinivasacharya was sitting with his 2 wives in Bhaṇa-Vishnupur, and Srinivas at that time began speaking Harikatha to his 2 wives. And his Harikatha was so wonderful. It attracted the minds of his wives and completely enchanted them. And he became so absorbed in that Harikatha that suddenly he fell unconscious. And he called out, Gauranga, and just fell down on the ground. And then in that condition, kind of half conscious, half unconscious, sometimes he was calling out the name of Nityananda, Rup, Sanatan, Bhatta Goswami. And after some time, finally he got up and went to take his bath. And then he sat down, put on some nice white cloth and sat down in front of the deity. And then he put on tilak and he began to offer some prayers in a very sweet voice to Radha and Krishna. And he became so very, very absorbed in that in his meditation, he saw the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And he saw a particular wonderful pastime that was going on, that Radha and Krishna were taking bath on the banks of the Jamuna, and surrounded by gopis. Krishna looked like a cloud surrounded by lightning. And the gopis, they were decorating Krishna so many ways. And Krishna entered the water. And then Rupa Manjari, Labanga Manjari, Guna Manjari, Rati Manjari, the different 6 Goswamis, they were standing on the banks of the river to watch the pastimes of Krishna. And the gopis in the water, they began to splash water in Krishna's face. The Manjaris, their work is to watch things. And they're watching for the pleasure of Krishna, but they're also watching to understand what is needed, what service is needed. And so at that time, Radha and Krishna, in this meditation of Srinivasacharya, he saw Radha and Krishna performing Jalakrita Lila with different gopis in the water, and how they were splashing each other and grabbing each other and things. And then finishing her bath, Radharani got out of the water. And when she got out of the water, she didn't notice Srimati Radharani had a very beautiful nose ring, which had fallen out. The gopis all followed her, and Krishna began to dress the gopis, and they entered into a kunj. Brinda Devi brought different fruits and sweets and things. And then suddenly they noticed that Radharani had lost her nose ring. And so they thought perhaps it must have been lost in the water. How are we going to get it back? It's going to be very hard to find it. And so then Rupa Manjari and Guna Manjari, as Gopal Bhatta Goswami, they winked at Mani Manjari and told her that you know the mind of Radharani very well, so you should go and search it out. And so then Mani Manjari went searching for this thing. Mani Manjari is Narottam Das Thakur. She went to the bank of the Jamuna searching for that nose ring, and she couldn't find it. So then she entered into the water of the Jamuna, because this is the mood of the Sakhī Manjaris. The Manjaris in particular, as I said, they're waiting, they're watching. When is an opportune time for me to render some service? And so when she entered into the water looking, and she found that that nose ring was on top of a lotus flower, lotus leaf. I'm even telling you wrong. Anyway, at this time, Srinivasacharya was completely absorbed in samadhi. And his 2 wives became very, very worried. They saw that his body had become stiff and his breathing had stopped. And there was no movement in his body at all. And so they started crying. They started loudly chanting the holy names, but he didn't return to external consciousness. And so this went on all night. And his wives are saying there must be some bad omens, and they're rolling on the ground crying and trying to pacify themselves. The king heard about this, Raj Bihambir, who's a disciple of Srinivas, and he came there to his Guru Maharaj's house, and he couldn't find any sign of life in Srinivasacharya. And so then his Guru Matas, his 2 wives, explained to him what had happened and how he was behaving. And so he went to bring different devotees, and Ballabha Kaviraj and Krishna Balabi and Janaki Das, different disciples of Srinivasacharya came there, and they tried their best to revive him, but all of them failed. And the whole day went by. And the wives were rolling on the ground and crying. Everyone was trying to do something, but they couldn't do anything. And so they were waiting, and crying. And then suddenly one of them remembered that, oh, Ramachandra Kaviraj, Srinivas, our husband, had told us that it was Ramachandra Kaviraj who could understand our husband. So, and then another one spoke up, the other wife spoke up and said that I had this dream that Ramachandra Kaviraj was going to come here today. And just as she said like that, Ramachandra Kaviraj arrived. And he fell down at the feet of his Guru Maharaj, Srinivasacharya, and started offering prayers with folded hands. And then he sat down next to Srinivasacharya, and he also entered into samadhi. And then he could see what was going on in that Lila, and how his Guru Maharaj was searching Mani Manjari. I'm trying to remember. I thought Mani Manjari was Narottama, but Mani Manjari may be Srinivas. How his Guru Maharaj in his Manjari form was searching for the nose ring of Srimati Radharani. And just at that time, Ramachandra Kaviraj in his Manjari Swarup came and found that nose ring, handed it to her Guru Maharaj, Mani Manjari, who handed it to Rupa Manjari, who at the perfect time offered it to Srimati Radharani. And then the two of them came back again to external consciousness, and they began to cry in ecstasy. So this is the service of Ramachandra Kaviraj. This is a service, that most intimate service that a devotee can do to Guru, to Radha and Krishna. I'd like to finish now a little bit by speaking about what we spoke of on the first part of our talk about the importance of a conception. And let's look to Bhakti Sandarbha, Anucheta 304, where Srila Jiva Goswami says, Astu tavad bhajana prayasa kevala chadri satva bhimani napi siddhir bhavati. Astu tavad, let it be, bhajana prayas, this bhajan prayas, this activity that we're doing, a bhajan, kevala, it only has this particular meaning. Tadu sattva abhimananena. We just want to have some conception, just even the self-conception, even if it be theoretical. This is our conception that ultimately I'm a servant of the Gopis. And that mere conception will bring about siddhir bhavati, will bring about all perfection. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Padyavali and also Madhya Lila chapter 13 of Chaitanya Charitamrita, during the Ras Lila, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came before Lord Jagannath, and he recited this verse, which is a verse that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas use as a kind of bhuta suddhi. Bhuta suddhi is an activity that you do before puja. When you're getting ready to do puja, you speak something about what is to purify your bhuta, to purify your consciousness, to establish who you are and how I can render the service. And this is a verse that we recite. Naham vipro na charanada paiti naipi vaishyo na sudro, naham varni na chagriha patirno vanasto yatirva, kintu prodyan nakila paramananda pranabritab. There Gopi Bhartahu padakamalayo dasa dasa nudasa. Although sometimes we speak about Varnashram Dharma, but here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing that we may act according to Varnashram Dharma, but that Varnashram Dharma that we're doing is actually Vaidhi Bhakti. that Daivi Vanashram. It's not actually, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur and our acharyas, nowhere do they give instructions from Manasamhita other than a few verses here and there about other philosophical things, but nowhere do they instruct us to follow the Dharma Shastras such as Vishnu Smriti and others. Rather, we follow this verse, Naham Vipro, I'm not a Brahmin, not a Patinaipi Vaishyanas, I'm not a king, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya, I'm not a Shudra, I don't belong to any caste. Kintu Prodyanakila Parama. The only thing, the only conception that I want to have is Gopi Bhartahu Pada Kamali or Dasa Dasan or Dasanar, that I'm the servant of the servant of the servant, many times removed of the Gopis of Vrindavan. And this is what Narottam Das Thakur is speaking with us about in this last verse in the sixth section of Prema-bhakti-candrika, that we should have this conception that this is our goal. This is my ultimate identity. I haven't realized this, but this is the identity that I want to have, that I'm a servant of the Gopis. Sakhī-gaṇa cāri-pāśe sevā-kūra abhilāṣe, parama sevā-sūkha dhare. That I want to engage in the service of the Gopis, because the Gopis seva is the topmost of all services. Let's go ahead and look at this verse again, and I'm going to go ahead and stop here. Sakhī-gaṇa cāri-pāśe sevā-kūra abhilāṣe, parama sevā-sūkha dhare. bhaṇe mora, rase hañā, Narottama sadā-i bihare. The sakhīs surround Sri Radha and Krishna on all four sides, and while serving them feel ecstatic bliss in their hearts. Narottam Das desires such service, being absorbed in loving transcendental mellows. So this is the last verse, the conclusion of this section of Prema-bhakti-candrika, which is Braj Parakya Tattva, the truth about Parakya Bhav and Braj. And he's finishing with our ultimate conception, our ultimate desire. It's a very, very high thing. And as Srila Prabhupada describes in that 8th chapter of the Madhya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is something, a very important consideration, because without Radha and Krishna, without the presence of the Gopis, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna are not nourished, they're not expanded. So this Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai, this is our conception of our Gurudev when we're seeing preaching going on. This is our mental conception, because this is the kirtan of our sampradaya. We're following the kirtan of the Gopis, doing kirtan and serving Srimati Radharani. So we began with describing from Srila Prabhupada's 30th chapter of Krishna book, and how Krishna left the Gopis, went hiding, and how the Gopis, when they went searching for Krishna, at first they realized that Radharani had been taken by Krishna. They felt a little unhappy about that. But when they found Radharani and how Krishna had left her, then they felt very sympathetic to Srimati Radharani. And then the Gopis, along with Radharani, began to proceed deeper in the forest. And then they all began to chant Hare Krishna in this place. And we spoke about how that kirtan of the Gopis, Vande Nanda Bhajastrinam Padarenam Abhikshna Saha, how Uddhava offers obeisances to the dust of the Gopis, and that kirtan of the Gopis, Yasam Harikatod Gitam Punati Bhuvanatrayam, it's purifying all the three worlds. Just a mere conception of this thing. So this is a point that Narottam Das Thakur is giving us in his verse today. We should have a conception. As Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once famously said at Radha-Kund, a lecture we often cite, he said, I know you're not ready for this. But if we're only thinking that our goal is anartha nibritti, is vanashram dharma, to act as a proper Brahman, Vaishya, Sudra, and to give up anarthas, if that's my goal, then we may become impersonalists. Our goal is not anartha nibritti, our goal is artha prabritti. But we have to understand that. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada gave this Krishna book to the whole world, not just to the devotees. He wanted it distributed to everyone, so everyone could get the good fortune of understanding this topmost thing, which is rendering service to the Gopis of Braj. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Does anybody have any reflections or comments or anything? We can go ahead and have that. Leela Purushottam Prabhu, if you watch this video later on, I was thinking about you today, and I collected some of these statements for your pleasure. So I'm sorry you weren't able to come today. Anybody have any reflections or anything? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and stop and we can come together next week again. Orsi, you want to share something?
Yes, thank you. It was so beautiful. Thank you for this explanation. It was really nice how you explained all of this really high topic. And of course, it's not easy to connect to that, but few things just came into my mind. I hope I can express them properly. The one when it was really completely explained how actually Radha and in the focus of the Gopis are the service of Radha and Krishna. However, when they are going to the Rasa Lila, it catched my mind that when I read the Srimad Bhagavatam, that all the Gopis went there without knowing about the others. So it seemingly everyone wanted to meet with Krishna privately. And there they realized, oh, there are the others as well. And for me, it's, of course, later after the Rasa Lila, and they left the Rasa Lila, and happened that Krishna left the Gopis and finally even left Radharani. For me, it seems that the cohesion or the cooperation between the Gopis improved naturally on the basis of emphasis or compassion. So first they somehow, there is a kind of rivalization between or among them, but naturally this, after meeting with Krishna and their companion, in his companion, it is slowly decreased, and finally there is a union between the Gopis and the natural hierarchy, where Radharani is the topmost, and everyone would like to serve them better than just enjoy privately or directly with Krishna. Is this understanding? So maybe for us, if I, of course, we are not on that level, but I realize there are, just because of the questions of the devotees, that there are many questions that, oh, we cannot directly approach Krishna. It's kind of taboo. Krishna is taboo, but it's from this, it seems that okay, we cannot directly approach Krishna, but maybe if we how would I say, we just it happens because actually we have basically, or in the beginning, we have more attraction to Krishna than to serve Radha and Krishna together. But later in our service, if it is improving in the right way, there will be a natural end that finally we just go ahead and proceed, and we are not so interested anymore to towards Krishna himself, but really start to accept the mood of the gopis. So what I would like to reflect only that it is a good understanding that there is a natural process, and what I read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, actually it happens in our soul. Yeah, of course, not in that high level way, but in a more human way, or I don't know how to express. Is it understandable?
Everything in our line, Shri Radha Govinda Premi Sadadhyena Basi, the Tulsi prayers, our Mangal Artik prayers, all of these things are meant for this ultimate kind of service. We just need to have a proper conception of it. And we shouldn't be sentimental and in a fantasy and thinking, well, I'm a gopi or I'm doing like this, I'm very advanced or something, but I'm just rendering this humble service. In this way, we're doing Rathayatra, we're doing Harinam for the devotees and things. We're rendering service for the Vaishnavas and the Gurudev. And just as you were mentioning, it's a nice point about how the gopis came together. They went to the forest alone and then they came together. In the same way, we hear about Katyayani Brata, how the gopis also one day they met on the bank of the Jamuna and they said, "What are you doing here?" And the gopis said, "Well, I don't know. What are you doing here?" And finally, they all confided in each other that they were all there for the same purpose, to do some worship so that they could get Krishna as their husband. And so then they began discussing what's the best thing we can do. And they decided to worship Goddess Katyayani. And then the next question was, well, how should we do this? Should we do this all together or should we do it separately? And then they came to the conclusion that there's much more strength in doing it together. And so the gopis did that to teach us that how we should be doing kirtan. We should be together with the devotees. And that's nice. Anybody else with anything? Thank you, Arsi.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Gaunitai Prabhu. And was that Ishwari Prema's voice I heard?
Hare Krishna. My obeisances to you and Mataji Krishna Kund. Thank you for Kathai. Happy I could join after some time of marathon of celebrations. You mentioned book distribution connected with this topic, and I want more understand how this topic is, how book distribution is connected with this topic of what you explained today. Like, no, because I know that like Sankirtana in streets is like the same converted form like Rasa Lila dance in Krishna Lila, and how book distribution participate in this, I know, Rasa Lila, or just...
The gopis, we were just hearing from Ramananda Roy, how the gopis' mood nourishes Radha-Krishna's pastimes in three ways, which are Pushta, Vistaraya, and Asvadan. There's three different aspects of the gopis' mood. The first is that they nourish those pastimes. Without the gopis' activity, that Radha-Krishna's Lila doesn't go on. And so similarly, this book distribution, this Harinam's preaching, if this activity nourishes Pushta, this movement. If we stop the book distribution, if we stop the Harinam and things, then this movement won't be nourished, and us as individuals won't be nourished. We as individuals, it nourishes us as individuals, and it nourishes this movement. And the second is Vistaraya. Vistaraya means to expand. And this is how that's the business of the gopis. They're always engaging other people in coming to Radha and Krishna and serving Radha Krishna. That's book distribution also. We're going out and we're, hey, you are a really lucky person. Here's this wonderful book for you. And this may change your life and bring them to Radha and Krishna, and the kirtan of the gopis, the devotees may do like that. But all of those two activities have to be done with asvadaya. Asvadaya means that we're relishing. So if the devotees are going out and they're not relishing, they don't have any kind of taste, then what are we doing? Then we can't do pushta and we can't do ashvadaya. We can't nourish it. We can't expand those pastimes. But these three things are three things which Ramananda Roy describes about the gopis, and the three elements that we can see are basic to book distribution. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada replied to Rameshwar Prabhu that Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhyai means preaching. Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhyai means we're the Gurudev is bringing Radha and Krishna together. And this is, how is he doing that? Well, I can't see that. I can't see the Manjari Swarup of my Guru and this and that. But I can see Gurudev going out and doing his preaching. And there's three activities of preaching. Ashvadaya, by relishing, then we're able to do pushta, we're able to nourish, and we're able to expand those pastimes. Is that helpful? That's what
Yes.
Lithuania was. Rath Yatra going on right now, right?
Yeah, was Radha-Yatra, wonderful pastime of Radha-Yatra.
Are you the main pujari?
Where, in Radha-Yatra?
Yes. Are you the main pujari there?
No, I'm just following the vehicle.
But it's your deities, right? Your Jagannath.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It was so amazing. Okay.
We're thinking, Haribo.
Thank you.
This is a strange way to meet people. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any type
See
of
you soon.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You're in Rasamrita Kunj? Doesn't look like Rasamrita Kunj.
It's not so far from Rasamrita. I came to Kirtan. Yeah, I'm waiting for this. But the Gora village like that.
Oh, it's Gora village. I didn't recognize.
It's opposite to Gora village, but anyway, nice place.
Wow, nice neighborhoods. My gosh, everything's coming up around Mayapur. I've never.
Sometimes they have some kirtan evening. Soon they start. Yeah, nice place. So I would like to ask one thing that I heard that's very important factor that all these gopis are took birth in Varshana in nearby. And from their childhood, they feel that one family we are with Radharani, or very near, they are very close to Radharani's parents, and the parents came together like families. So can you explain that how they can nourish that kind of consciousness that we are one of these subculture, and then we naturally first love Radharani because we grow up with her, and then you know that Radharani's beloved is Krishna, and then we know Krishna. So it's so natural in this way, but here in the material world we are living quite far from this concept. How can coming closer?
There's different types of gopis. First of all, generally there's Dakshina Nayikas and Nabami Nayikas, the right and left wing gopis. But Rupa Goswami and our acharyas also describe 5 different types of sakhīs and nitya sakhīs, prana sakhīs, priya sakhīs, and the parama sakhīs. And some of them they have different moods. And some of them have samasneha. They have the same kind of affection for both for Krishna and for Radha. And some of them have their devotion is more directed towards Srimati Radharani, some samasneha, asamasneha, unequal affections, more affection toward Krishna or more affection toward Radharani. In our line, we're followers of Rupa Manjari, who's a follower in turn of Lalita Sakhi, and they're dedicated to Srimati Radharani. So these sakhīs, who are all, as you pointed out, they're all living in small villages around Barsana, and they're all friends from their birth with Srimati Radharani. And because they're so intimate with Srimati Radharani, and because they have this taste, this ashvadoy, they're relishing bringing Radha and Krishna together. Therefore, they do these 2 things, that they're doing pushta, they're able to nourish the pastimes, And they're also able to do vistaraya. They're able to expand those pastimes by bringing other gopis there. Actually, Barsana, I've been thinking about Barsana recently. Just a kind of a side note. I don't know if it's really relevant to your question, but I spent some time in Barsana. I lived there for a month or so on one occasion. And it's quite an extraordinary place. Every morning about 4 o'clock, 4:15, there's like 100 ladies going for Mangal Artik at the Sriji Mandir, and you hear them singing these songs and going on the pathway on top of Barsana Hill. And there's some different places where they feed all the yatris, and going and taking prasadam there. I met some of the different people. And there was one lady, I remember meeting her and was talking to her, and she spoke very good English, and I commented on it. She said, "Oh, I'm a PhD from Harvard University." And she has a summer home there in Barsana. And I found quite a few very educated people in Barsana. Each place in Braj has its own particular flavor, and Barsana has a very special flavor. They're very, very dedicated towards Srimati Radharani, but I find there's a lot of very high-class people there too, very, very educated people. And this is the nature of the gopis. I don't know if that answers your question or not. They're so close to Srimati Radharani, and they understand the heart of Srimati Radharani, how she wants to be with Krishna, how she wants to please Krishna. And because of that, they're able to do this pushta and Vishwadai. They're able to nourish the pastimes, and they're able to expand those pastimes. And they do that but by their love. Just their love and their ecstasy in serving Radha and Krishna nourishes those pastimes and expands them. Without their presence, Krishna doesn't get satisfaction. It's just not the same.
Yes, thank you. I was thinking that reading much more about this kind of culture, like in Shiva Shivaram Swami Maharaj last book is Tabakatamrita, start with the story, very elaborate story of how Kusum Sarovar appeared. And at the beginning, these girls, they come together and they want to have a nice festival and go to the Pushpavan to collect flowers. So it's so natural for them to be together, very friendly. And then they learn that something nice lila could be happen, then they nourish it. So it's so natural. But I'm saying that for us who is living in the material world, it's quite difficult to get to the same mood. Maybe it's by purification is coming up.
Well, that's why, to answer directly that point, was pretty much our whole kata. We need to have this conception. It's not enough just to run out and learn how to sell books and really, excuse me, sir. Wow, you're the most handsome guy. You have the most beautiful woman with you today. And you're getting one of these. And we give them a book and we're very enthusiastic. That's great. That's very nice. That's piety. But it's not the same thing. We have this conception that this is actually the service of the gopis to bring different souls to Radha and Krishna. And that's a very high thing. I can't imitate that. But Srila Prabhupada is such a personality. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is such a personality. My Gurudev is assisting them. I'm assisting my Gurudev. This is the activity of the Gopis. That's our conception. And therefore, our last point pretty much was Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha, how important it is to have this conception. And this is the difference between Daivi Varnashram, which is really actually Vaidhi Bhakti, and mundane Varnashram Dharma. Mundane Varnashram Dharma is very pious, but we don't care for it. For us, it's completely useless. It has no meaning. We're interested in Daivi Varnashram, which is Vaidhi Bhakti, and the evidence again for that is that we don't follow Manasamhita. Our acharyas haven't given us Manasamhita, Vishnu Smriti, this or that. Rather, they've given us instructions from Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Bhagavatam. And Bhaktivinoda says we should follow Varnashram. And his commentary on the phrase in Upadeshamrita, he explains that as long as someone has some material conception, they have to act according to Varnashram. But he doesn't quote Manasamhita at all. He just speaks from the Bhagavatam and things. In basic, it's really Vaidhi Bhakti, because we can't do all that Manasamhita. It's not relevant for us. And so we're doing something in relation to my body. I'm acting as a brahmachari, I'm acting as a sannyasi, I'm acting as a grihasta, I'm acting as a lady, according to this vanashram, this Daivi vanashram thing. But I'm doing it with this conception that we're all serving the gopis. Very, very important thing. All right. I'm envious of you. You're there. It looks like a wonderful place in Kirtan's.
Yeah, I just started the Kirtan.
You're really, really blessed, Gandhi type of book. Guru Maharaj has really blessed you a lot. Being
Hare-Krishna. Hare-Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So if anybody else has anything, otherwise I'm going to go ahead and stop. And next week, let me look on the calendar here. Next 18th, we should be on the Wednesday. We should be fine. I'm not sure the week after that, because the 25th, I'm going to be speaking at the Rath Yatra Pandal program, and Trai Prabhu and his wife are going to be here. Prabhupada's disciple Trai Prabhu and his wife from Italy. We'll see. I'm not sure. We'll let everybody know. Or so you had something else?
If it's possible.
Okay.
Okay. One thing which also catched my mind today, when there was the description from the Srimad Bhagavatam that the Gopis stopped looking for Krishna in the forest when they reached a point where even the moonlight could not be seen. So I was wondering previously what actually this mean. Do you have something in this regard? So what kind of symbolism or relevance is there that it is emphasized that they didn't go inside the forest where there even the moonlight couldn't be seen?
That I can't comment on. I'm not sure what our acharyas have said about that. Or if they've said anything about that, I'd have to go over that section of the Bhagavatam. It's been quite a long time since I have. It could be something, though. We know that Purnima, that light of the moon enhances the Ras Lila, and the Chandra Devi is coming to watch the Ras Lila. And then the gopis in their viraha and their separation from Krishna, that moonlight even disappears, the moonlight of the Ras Lila, which is a moonlight of the Milan, their union, when they go searching deeper in the forest. Perhaps that, I don't know. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop there. Thank you all very much. We'll see everybody again next week. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki, Go Prema-nandi Hari Hari Bo, Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha, Kripa Sindhu Bheva Cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo.